Welcome and thanks for joining us. My guest today is Leilani Martínez, the Acting Director of the Public Experience Portfolio at the General Services Administration. Leilani, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here and talk to all your guests.
It's an honor to be speaking with you today. Just before we get started into the questions here, can you give my audience a little bit of an introduction of the portfolio of things you tackle in all things customer experience at GSA?
Absolutely. So right now, currently, I'm the Acting Director of the Public Experience Portfolio within Solutions, which is a group in the Technology Transformation Service. And our group is responsible for a suite of products and programs, including USA.gov and USA.gov and Español, which are the official websites of the US government in English and Spanish. But also we manage vote.gov and search.gov.
Okay, great. And I understand there's some exciting developments there on the USA.gov front, that there's a recent upgrade to that website, both in the English and the Spanish versions. Can you tell me a little bit more about what is entailed in that upgrade and what we can expect going forward?
Sure, we're super excited. This is actually hot off the press. So last week, we launched the new iterations, the new versions of USA.gov and USA.gov and Español. This is actually work that's been happening for over a year. But the last 6 months, we actually had available to the public a beta version of our sites. We had beta.usa.gov and the Spanish equivalent for that. So it was a wonderful experiment, but also a way to gather feedback from the public and improve before we actually graduated the sites out of beta. And the idea behind that effort was to really improve the experience for the public. We've been really spending lots of time looking at our data, quantitative and qualitative data, learning more about our users, understanding their pain points. And then we worked to really take all those learnings and implement a better version of our sites.
Okay, and to look at this a little bit more broadly, can you explain to me the value of having a website that exists at that digital front door and helping those customers out there, the public, better understand and better navigate the services that they're llooking for?
Absolutely. So something we've learned over the years, and research has shown, that people don't know how government is organized. They don't really need to know. When they come to us, they're looking for something really specific. They have a task in hand, they have a need that they need to address, and they come to us trying to look for answers to their questions. So that's the value of USA.gov and USA.gov and Español. We are agency agnostic. We've actually aggregated information from across the government and organized that by topics. So you really do not need to know how our government is organized, which program or which agency is responsible for which program. You come to us, you look at the list of topics that we have on our site, and you navigate and get to those answers. One of the main things that we've been able to improve based on all the data and the research and usability testing we've conducted over the last few months is that really in our previous sites, we had a lot of information. It was information overload on our pages. And data really showed us that when people were coming to our sites, they were getting a little lost. So actually, one of the main changes that you will see on the new USA.gov and USA.gov and Español is that we have one user need per page, which is actually, we've reduced the number of links on the page. Some of the pages also only have one call to action or very small number of supporting links that will direct the public to the right answers. So the idea is really to streamline and simplify the experience so people can get the information quicker and faster. And we are ensuring that they're getting to the right information and to the right agency that's going to help them with their need.
Okay, great. And it's interesting that this beta site has been up for so long and that folks have been able to kick the tires, so to speak, and do the sorts of things that you just mentioned. Are there other things, other feedback that you've gotten over that course of that 6 months that has been valuable for the non-beta version of the site that's now live on USA.gov?
So one of the things, we did some really interesting things in terms of the way we're gathering feedback, but also doing usability testing. So right now, we don't have the beta up anymore. So as of a couple of weeks, we were able to graduate out of beta. So what you see is the new versions of the site. But for some time, when we had both the beta site and our regular site up, we were doing comparative usability testing, which was really, really great. Because we were able to seize that opportunity to really test with the public similar content on both the beta side and on the regular side. And we were seeing how people were, where they were struggling, but also how we were improving the experience by the way we were presenting or structuring content on the new sites. One of the things, for example, that it's new on the site as well, based on all the research we did, was we created, and we're experimenting still with interactive tools, or what we call wizards. And the idea behind that really is to, once again, streamline and improve that experience. So we present the user with a set of questions, just a couple, 2 or 3, but it's really to kind of understand their context a little bit more. And that allows us to filter out the resources that are not applicable to them, and then present them to the things with the things that will actually help them. We actually are starting with 2 of those tools. We have a tool around scams and frauds. It's a very popular topic on USA.gov, and also contact your elected official. Right now, people can actually enter some information about themselves, where they live, and then they'll get a list of all their elected officials in their area as well, so they can reach out to them.
Okay, well, certainly something we hear time and again when we talk about customer experience and digital experience is that user-centered design. And so when you say, things that are popular on the site, scams and fraud, contact your elected official, are these things that GSA from the jump thought these were services that would be valuable for the public? Are these things the public are saying that they are looking for? Is it a little bit of both? Help me better understand, how those functionalities come into focus.
We've always been user-centered, but especially with this kind of work we did with the beta sites and really going deep into our data, quantitative and qualitative data, and also our contact center data. I want to take that into account, because I think that sometimes is a missing element sometimes in the work that we do, not taking into account the experiences and the input that we're getting from the public through other channels, such as the contact center. We use really all that data to really kind of validate some of what we knew over the years. USA.gov has been in existence for over 20 years. USA.gov and Español, 20 years this year. So there's things that we've always kind of known. There's topics that have always been popular on our site. But the different thing this time around is that research was really on the forefront. Understanding user needs was really a way for us to validate many things that we've been knowing over the years, but also kind of understanding what else are we missing here? And that's really what allows us to really experiment with the interactive tools. We actually want to explore other areas where we can be using similar functionality to help people get to the answers that they need quicker. But yes, we've always known, for example, that topics around scams and frauds and passports and government benefits are really important on the English side. I want to emphasize, because if we're talking about customer experience, that what we do with our Spanish side is not a translation. We really embrace our product principles, and we designed a service and an experience for Spanish speakers the same way we do it for our English speakers. So we look at the data that we've collected over time that really shows what are the needs for Spanish speakers. And some are similar, that the English speakers, some are not. One of the most popular topics on the Spanish side is immigration-related issues. So as you can imagine, that section on our site is much more developed and provides much more context than the section on immigration on the English side.
Well, I think that's actually an important thing to highlight here. That is not just this one-to-one translation, that it is also serving the needs of that Spanish-speaking population. And I'm just thinking back to recent years. I know the IRS has focused pretty heavily on making sure their services are available in a variety of languages, and really making the focus there. Let's just spend a little bit more time there in terms of I think back to the administration's executive order on customer experience, this idea of lowering the barriers for everyone, making sure that underserved communities, are brought to the forefront here. In terms of that barrier of language here, how do you see GSA addressing those really core issues?
That's a great question, and something that's dear to my heart, is one of the areas that I'm passionate about. So there's a couple of things at GSA, specifically TTS. I want to focus on technology transformation service and also the public experience portfolio. There's a couple of things. We actually have the multilingual community of practice that has been quite active in the last 19 years, that really brings people together from across the government, practitioners, to really share best practices, lessons learned, and really it's a community that helps each other kind of understand, how do we better design experiences that are culturally sensitive and in language for different populations that are limited English proficient. That's really important for us as well. But in terms of USA.gov and Español, we really see ourselves as a model as well, in terms of how we use data to improve the services for this community. We do usability testing with Spanish speakers. So we spend a lot of time, and we've been really, really intentional about making sure that we are recruiting a diverse population that can really help us define better the needs for the Spanish language side. So throughout the beta site, when it was available to the public, and even now, we continue to prioritize working with the Spanish-speaking community, doing usability testing with them, and kind of understanding what it is that they need from the government. Many times, these are populations that historically haven't had access to critical government information, that there's mistrust, that they do not understand how systems work here. So we need to provide context, more context to a lot of the information that we provide. But in terms of our organization, we really have developed guidelines and guidance to really support other agencies in their mission to really serve the needs of other populations. And I will invite people to go to Digital.gov, because there is a multilingual community of practice, and they've been able to develop wonderful resources that are available to everyone. And they also host webinars and trainings that people can attend.
All right. Well, I'm really kind of interested in this broader idea of the community around CX and government, because it is, I think, a growing and really vocal community in terms of what they're able to do. You just mentioned, of course, the multilingual community of practice here, but it seems to be that this is a focus that, spreads in a lot of different directions here. GSA, of course, is that central hub with USA.gov, but, it takes a lot of other agencies. You mentioned passports, that's bringing in the State Department. A couple other agencies are really at the forefront of this. Just in terms of that cooperation, in terms of those forums where you guys exchange ideas, how does it all kind of work, and kind of what kind of things are in the works, I guess?
That's a great question, because I always say that USA.gov and USAGov and Español wouldn't exist if other agencies didn't also work on their digital presence, because we rely on them. One of our goals is to really be able to help navigate people to the right agency with the right information that's going to help them with their need or their problem. So we're constantly collaborating with other agencies in terms of our content. Many agencies come to us to offer feedback about the content, or content that we need to be able to provide through our site. We do a lot of collaboration on the outreach side. So what's really interesting is that we have a social media and an email marketing program that's quite robust. So we're constantly collaborating with other agencies to help amplify their message. So we do co-branded campaigns, but really is in the spirit of being able to share with the public everything the government has to offer and all the resources. What we see many times is that not only people are unaware or are overwhelmed by the way government is organized and how to navigate it, many times they do not know that certain resources exist and that they're eligible to apply, maybe to a benefit program, etc. That said, I think there's even more opportunities for USA.gov to really do more. One of our long-term goals is to be able to work with other agencies and explore this idea of being able to offer in USA.gov more transactions, more services, so people can start on USA.gov and end and complete their transaction on USA.gov, but working in collaboration with the agencies that, of course, are experts on those topics. We know that many times when people come to USA.gov, yes, we want them to get to the right source of information, but sometimes we kind of lose track. Did they end up in the right place? Could we be there kind of along the way to help them finish that transaction? And one of our goals is to be able to partner with an agency where we can streamline those processes on the back end, so we can be actually able to offer that whole service on USA.gov. We could be the front end, people just stay with us, but in the back end, there's more collaboration. And really that for me will be an amazing goal, not only for USA.gov, but for all of government, if we can streamline that whole experience.
All right. Yeah, well, it's a very large government to bring together, but it's exciting that that community exists. I'll slightly change gears here a little bit, staying with this thread of digital services. It strikes me that the federal government doesn't exactly get to choose its customers. Its customers is the U.S. public, and that's a very diverse group of folks. And, of course, digital services, people are pretty web savvy these days and can probably navigate USA.gov, but that skill set varies pretty considerably. Some people might be more proficient doing that on their computer or may prefer to do that on their mobile phone. Maybe they're not even really all too web savvy and may, want to do something over the phone, call somebody, or, sometimes even in-person services is what they really prefer. We are really focusing a lot of this on digital services, but in terms of that omni-channel experience that the public craves, how in your corner of GSA, how do you manage that?
Thanks for that question, because it's actually, we pride ourselves in being an omni-channel platform. We've been talking a lot about USA.gov and USA.gov and Español, but really we are a platform, and that's why I mentioned earlier the social media and email marketing. Part of our mission is that we want to serve the public, and we want to be where they are. We want to meet them where they are, irrespective of the channel they select to communicate with us. And in addition to the websites, like I mentioned before, and the social media and email marketing channel, we have really quite a robust program there. We have a contact center, and that's a key part of our effort and our operations, and is very well integrated into the work that we do. Like I mentioned before as well, during the process of developing the new iteration of our sites, one of the data sources that we analyzed and took very much into account was our contact center data. We need to understand that people coming to us through the phone or through chat, what are they asking? What words are they using? How are they framing their issue or their need or their problem? And one of the key things for USA.gov is that our content, the content that our content strategists develop, feeds both the website and the contact center. It's the same content. And we made that decision many years ago to not have two different databases, one for the knowledge base for the contact center agents and the website, because we wanted to be consistent in the information that we provided, and we wanted to learn from each other. So what happens nowadays is that we take feedback from contact center agents, either having sometimes difficulty getting the right answer, right information from the content that we have developed. They let us know. There's this constant feedback loop between our content designed team and our contact center. So we're constantly ensuring that whatever we're developing and producing is serving all audiences. So that for us is really important, that we continue to have this and embrace this omnichannel principles. That doesn't matter how you reach out to us, you're going to get the same consistent information, and it's going to be accurate, and that we're going to be learning from each other. Because there might be things that are coming from the contact center that are very valuable. We might not be seeing it so much on the digital side, but that information should still be there because we need to serve everyone.
Well, that's actually really interesting to hear. What I'm hearing from that is that, you know, the employee experience has a real factor in the customer experience, that feedback you're getting from the contact center folks. They're saying, oh, this went really well, or, you know what, there's some things about this I'd like to see improved. That has a huge impact on how they're actually able to serve the customers.
And they have buy-in, right? They're right there with us making those decisions. So one thing that I'll add to that, because it might be really interesting to you and others. So as part of the usability testing that we did with the public, we also did usability testing with the agents when we were kind of going through this beta site phase. We wanted to make sure that whatever we were developing was good for them as well, because they are actually the frontline people talking to the public at any given time, and they need the answer right there and then, right? You have somebody on the phone, you have somebody chatting you, they're asking you questions and you need to answer fairly quickly. So as part of our usability testing, we actually did testing with the agents to ensure that whatever we're producing was also serving them. And actually, we also saw improvement there. So it was not only that we improved the experience for the public, we actually improved the experience with the agents. New functionality such as the wizards was really great for them, because they were able then to engage with the public, ask them those questions that we have as part of the wizard functionality, and then being able to direct people to the right information. But yes, I just wanted to bring that up, that we took that into account as well. Not only do we get data and we get their feedback, but we actually included them in the usability testing effort as well.
Leilani, it occurs to me that a lot of this, you know, I think time and again about the idea of self-service tools, that this is not just, you know, the right thing to do, but this is a time saver for both the agency and the customer, that oftentimes customers know what service they want. It's just a matter of looking for it and navigating it. Let's just spend a little bit more time there.
Yes. So one of the things that we had found and that we're measuring is exactly that as part of our success metrics, is how much time people are saving. And I'll talk a little bit about employee in a minute. But in terms of the public, some of the testing, preliminary testing, and this work never ends, but some of the preliminary usability testing we've done with some of the functionality, like I mentioned before, we've seen savings in terms of time of almost 5 minutes. People know what like you're saying, some people know exactly what they want. They know they need to, or they want to contact an elected official, because it's a very popular thing on USA.gov. And it's been great to see that compared to the previous site, we're talking a savings time of almost 5 minutes in both English and Spanish. So people are, we want to do, we don't want people to just navigate and spend so much time on USA.gov. We want to direct them quicker and faster to where they need to be. In terms of employee efficiencies, the same thing. We actually, as part of this whole effort and upgrade, we actually did a lot of work on the back end and our infrastructure. to create a leaner platform for several reasons. One being our employees and our content managers. We wanted them to have a simpler and more efficient and more robust platform. We incorporated the US web design system, and we did that on purpose. We actually wanted to make it easier for our content strategists to create the experience on the pages. Also, we wanted to create consistency across the site and across the federal government. So between also creating a leaner platform that's had less customization, so it was easier for our employees to interact with, we've actually been able to expedite how much work and how much updates we can do quicker. One of our goals moving forward is to be able to make smaller changes, smaller incremental changes faster. We've actually reduced the number of tasks on usability testing. We used to do much more comprehensive usability testing, and the challenge was that it was taking us a while to then be able to process all that data and then act upon it. Now we've actually are doing smaller tests, so our employees are able to actually analyze that data and implement recommendations faster. And then also our content managers are able to implement that in our CMS and do things quicker. And I think also I have to talk about the employee engagement or employee morale. People are feeling really great to be able to see us translating those recommendations into actions faster, which was something that it was harder for us to do in the past.
Okay, all great points there. To go back to that usability testing and what goes into it, I think we spent a lot of time on the content of what's on any given page, and that's really important. But it strikes me that it's also really important, and GSA spends a lot of time on this, just the look and feel of a website. I know that with the US web design that GSA leads, that is something that they try to do government-wide, that it's, where the banners are placed, where the buttons are placed, the font size and, the colors and things like that, that people, regardless of their experience with .gov websites, they have a pretty inherent understanding of what they need to do once they're on that page. That seems to be a really important part of the overall customer experience as well.
That for us was the other key change. We actually incorporated the US web design system. It's actually part of our family as well. So it was great to be able this time around to actually leverage a lot of the services that GSA provides and incorporated that into USA.gov, USWDS being one of them, of course, search.gov and many others. So it's been great to cloud.gov as well. All those are actually part of this new iteration of the USA.gov and USAGov and Español platform. And what was great for us is that we actually, yes, provided consistency across our site, helping the public kind of become familiar. They don't have to learn each time they come to our site. Different pages might look a little different. This is much simpler. We actually been able to leverage the call to action button, some lists, some process lists, so some headings. And everything that you will see now on the USA.gov site, it's based on the system. And the idea for us, as I mentioned before, is to really contribute to improving all of the government experience and being part of that. Because the more we can all embrace and implement the system, the more we can improve the experience for all of the public. Especially for us, it's really important because at the end of the day, as of now, from USA.gov, you're going to end up on another agency website. So if we can really rally behind the system and start implementing this across the board, we're going to be helping the public at the end of the day. And we wanted to be really helping with that effort, but making sure that this new site made full use of the system.
Okay, and thinking back to other tools in the toolbox here of what makes customer experience and digital experience great, I sometimes look at the traffic on some of these .gov websites, and you're looking at millions of people sometimes on those sites. It's a real capacity challenge, and it's really impressive that these sites can handle that kind of workload. But I think one way to kind of manage that workload is just some levels of automation. I'm talking about things like chatbots and things that can direct people to maybe frequently asked questions, and just really kind of right sizing that level of care and attention they need. Again, going back to self-service, some people just know automatically what service they're looking for. Some people might need a little bit more help and a little bit more talking through. And so when it comes to that, I guess just to circle back to the chatbots piece of things, how is that a valuable tool in the toolbox for GSA to get people the right care and the right attention as quickly as possible?
Yes, great question. So right now on our new sites, we don't have the chatbot functionality. We used to, and we still want to explore that more. There were some challenges that we were facing with that, mostly in terms of resources and how do we maintain that over time. Definitely, it's something that we want to explore. One thing that I'm going to mention is that we're really launching an MVP. And that was kind of part of the strategy here. There's more work to be done on the USA.gov platform. There's more topics that we need to cover. There's more functionality that we want to explore, chatbots being one of them. We have some data that we collected in the past. There's some lessons learned that we have. We want to do it now based on those learnings, be able to provide a more comprehensive experience, because there were some things that we know we want to improve on and work on, in terms of making sure that those chatbots continue to be updated, for example, that we always have accurate information that we're providing to people, and that if there's changes on policies or programs, that we're able to incorporate that in the chatbot as well.
Okay, great. And, I know we've spoken about this for quite a while already, but I want to just highlight it a little bit more in terms of the data, in terms of the feedback that GSA is collecting for all these public-facing websites. Of course, it's the thing where what gets measured is what ultimately matters. And so in terms of the data that you guys have collected, in terms of the feedback you've collected, how has that been really valuable to making these kind of iterative changes that we've been talking about?
Yes, some of the things that, like I mentioned before, we're measuring is it's how much time we're saving people to get to the information that they need. We're also measuring referrals, how much we're referring people to other government agencies. And this is from the quantitative side. I want to talk a little bit about the qualitative side. We have surveys on our site at the page level. So those get analyzed on a regular basis. And the strength and the beauty of being able to look at that data is that we understand what exactly people are trying to look for in those pages, and also their pain points. So those get analyzed, and if we see a trend, we definitely explore and research that trend. And then if we have to make some changes, we will make them. The other part about surveys, especially at the page level, that's really great, is that we can see how people describe their experience in their own words. And that's something that's really valuable for us to understand. How are people describing it? How are people talking about the benefit of the program they're trying to look for, or the issues? And we take that into account as well as we make iterative or more incremental improvements to the site. In terms of some of the things that I want to mention to you about is that I know I talked a little bit about our how we are really trying to reduce information overload in our new sites. Some of the things that we measured that, for example, our average word count went down by 65%. We actually decreased the number of links by 79%. But all those to have proven to us that it's really helping with people navigating and processing information faster and getting to where they need faster. It's also helping, our theory is that it's going to help with SEO, because in the past, we had many user intents, user needs that we were trying to cover in one page, for example. And with that, we're hoping that our SEO will get better, and then we'll be able to, people will be able to directly get to where they need to be and then go from there. But yes, we're measuring things as what percentage of each site's visitors find and click a link to another government agency, how many people share this information with others on social media and email and things like that in the future. But yes, for us, the survey piece of all of this is also really, really important. And we have tools actually in place right now talking about automation. This is more on the internal side. We actually have tools now that help us kind of better and quicker analyze some of the trends. But then, of course, there's always a human element to all of this to validate this analysis. But then now we're able to look at this data quicker and faster as well and react to it in a timely manner.
Okay, great to hear. It occurs to me that GSA has, obviously put a lot of time and attention and thought into this digital experience space, but given the executive order that I mentioned earlier, this is something that other agencies, all agencies need to prioritize. And so there might be some agencies that are a little earlier in the learning curve with all of this. And so with that in mind, what advice do you give to agencies that are just getting started with this? What are some of the kind of common challenges that they might encounter, and how might they overcome those challenges?
I think starting small is important. There's a couple of things here. Starting small, we actually became very comfortable with the fact that it was not going to be perfect, and that's okay. That's why we really embrace this idea of doing a beta site and starting really small. It doesn't have all the elements that we would like for it to have, but we wanted to learn as we went. We really wanted to co-design. We wanted to do it together with the people that we serve. Sometimes we all have our own biases or our own assumptions of how the public wants to interact with us or what they need. And this idea was to really give us an opportunity to look at what are people saying. We're putting something out there. Let's test. Let's look at data. Let's understand. And then let's iterate. Let's move forward. And that actually was something, sounds very simple, but when you might not have kind of the culture in place for that, it could be really, really difficult. So there's training that needs to happen. There's sometimes reskilling and upskilling efforts that needs to happen. We spent a lot of time in the last few years, not just last year, for a couple of years. We've actually invested a lot of time and resources in our staff in really ensuring that they understood what it is that we were trying to do, saw the benefit for themselves, but also for the public, because they're very mission oriented and they're very passionate about serving the public. So that for me will be key. It's something that helped us tremendously, and we're constantly talking about it. And it's wonderful now that we launch our sites and we graduated out of beta site, the pride on staff, knowing that what we are designing and producing is really the result of a lot of looking at data, looking at quantitative and qualitative data, understanding that data, and acting on that. As part of the process of the beta site, I should say, we actually brought people from different disciplines. We created these cross-functional teams. And that could be an advice to other agencies as well that are starting in this process. We actually brought together people that were working on UX and content and data analysts and even our contact center. And we created different kind of pods of teams, and they were responsible to look at data on a specific government topic and actually analyze it, spent time on that, and they came up with proposed recommendations of things we needed to implement. So it's really also making sure that the people that are doing the work are part of the process. They also look at data. They are with you, understanding the public needs, and then empower them to make decisions that really were going to benefit the public. One of the things we've really done is embrace more of the product management approach to the work that we're doing. We actually created a product management team for the beta side, and we've empowered them to make decisions about the beta because they were the closest one to the team, and the leadership team was there to support. When issues needed to be escalated, we were there, but they were really the one, based on user needs and the user data and user research, prioritizing the work. And that was really, really key for us. But start small. It sounds overwhelming. It could be, but starting small, it can be done. It can be done. It should be done. We need to be committed to the people that we serve. And we really need to think about those who historically have not had access to government services. If we design for them, we'll be benefiting everyone.
All right. And I see we're getting close to time here, but I do want to ask one question, zeroing in a little bit more on that workforce piece of things, because I think it's interesting what a cross-discipline field this is, that it is bringing together the UX people, it's bringing the people who are generating that content that the public is seeing. It is, cyber security, I imagine, is part of it. It is so many different people working together on this. And to your point about upskilling and reskilling, it just seems like the number of skills that is necessary to make good customer experience is really quite a lot.
Yes, it is. It has to be a commitment. It has to be an investment, and it has to be a priority of the organization. And everyone needs to be on board. And one of the things I dare to say that this process, even though I can say a year plus we work on the beta sites, we started much earlier on the employee side and on the workforce side. We didn't start at the same time. We actually spent years before embarking in this adventure of kind of rethinking USA.gov and USAGov and Español, investing on our staff, kind of understanding and doing some sort of inventory of our skill set, understanding where we were, what else we needed, what were the gaps, what kind of reskilling we needed, what kind of training we needed to offer to our workforce to really prepare them for where we wanted to be. So it is a commitment. It is a commitment from leadership. It is a commitment from everyone, but it is important that we do so. One of a key moments for us was when someone at the time, we actually brought in some people on detail who had a lot of experience in this space. They were product managers, and they help us develop and craft the USA.gov product principles. They are available online, and we actually talked about those with our staff to make sure everyone understood what it is that we're trying to do. So those moments, those milestones are important. But even if you don't feel you have all the skills in-house, there's ways to maybe bring others, even if it's for a temporary time, to come and coach the team. We did some of that as well. We brought in people from other groups who spend time coaching our staff, coaching product managers, some of that were a little more junior, to ensure that we're all kind of had the same level of knowledge to be able to pursue this.
All right. Well, Leilani, I think we have covered a lot of ground here, but we are probably going to have to leave the conversation there. I'd like to thank today's guest, Leilani Martínez, the Acting Director for Public Experience Portfolio at the General Services Administration. I'm your moderator, Jory Heckman, and you're listening to Federal News Network. Now let me send you back to the studio for more on the CX Exchange.